Hello, I'm Ariam, and these are all the books I hope to read in February of 2026. Okay, so as always, we start from books I am already reading. I will start from one that I started last night, which is Cash to Do by Tuvia Tenenbaum. This is his second book, which I did not know. I thought it was his first book, but it is his second book, not his debut book. And basically, Tuvia Tenenbaum is a journalist who is he grew up as an ultra Orthodox anti-Zionist Jew in Jerusalem. He left and moved to like all sorts of places all over the world, ending up in Germany. And in this book, he comes to Israel and he interviews all sorts of people from all over Israel, Israelis, Palestinians, tourists, peace activists. As sometimes he says he's a Jew, sometimes he says he's not. They all know he's a journalist, though, and yes. I. Yes. Okay. Then another, well, more like a. Let me just show you this book backwards because I don't want you to see my school symbol, but it's not a book. It's actually, I'm just holding up a blank book. I could write on it. Um, but it is a short story, Ido Ve'inam by Shai Agnon. Now, Shai Agnon is a very famous author in Israel because he's the only Israeli author to have ever won a Nobel Prize for literature. There have been plenty of Nobel Prizes for economics and all sorts of other sciences. Not that economics is really science, uh, but Shai, well, it's a soft science, which, anyways, back to Shai Agnon. He's the only one Israeli author to have won a Nobel Prize for literature. So he's very famous, very studied. At least when I was in high school, he's very studied. That has changed now. And I've never finished a book by him or a short story even. I find his writing to be incredibly boring, but I do have to read this for a test that I have in a few days. So I'm slowly making my way through the story. Okay, then, in more books I'm reading, I have Drowned Amit by Diana Wynne Jones. This is the second in an interconnected series. Um, but since they're interconnected, I don't think they really have to be read in order. This one definitely does not. And we are following Mitt, who lives in the southern part of this continent, which is ruled over by various tyrannous earls. And he is very poor. He grows up poor and basically he grows up in part of this terrorist group. And he decides that he wants to kill the earl as like a 10-year-old. Then another book I'm in the middle of, back to nonfiction, is Religion for Atheists, a non-believer's guide to the uses of religion by Elaine de Botton. I am not an atheist, but nevertheless I'm reading this book and I am finding it quite interesting now. Though disagreeing with a lot of things. Around half and a half, I would say. I'm disagreeing with and agreeing with. And obviously, there are some things that I neither agree with nor disagree with. Anyways, but the things I'm disagreeing with and agreeing with, around half and half. Anyways, this is a person who is an atheist, very much so, but still believes that there are things that can be found in religion that can add value to people's lives. And this book is about what he thinks can add value from religion. And religion, he's really looking at Christianity and Judaism. And lastly, for books I'm in the middle of, I have been reading Oath's Blood by Mercedes Lackey. Now, this one is a little more complicated because basically this is part of a trilogy, but it's a book of short stories, and there are two books of short stories and a novel. So this book of short stories takes place partially before the other book of short stories, and before the novel, but the other half of it takes place after those two. So I read part of this book, and I read all of the other book of short stories and the novel, and now I have to finish up this to round out the trilogy, which now kind of feels like a quartet. Then I read this book as preparation to reread a book which follows the granddaughter or great granddaughter of one of the main characters in this book, which is By the Sword, obviously also by Mercedes Lackey. This follows a woman, Merceda Murray, who has a sword called Need, which makes her help women. It can only be used by women, and its mission is to help women. And she basically also gets sent on a quest by the sword, and she ends up joining characters from another series that is like a series that is in the same world. So, like, you don't have to read the prequel series to this book to understand this book, but you do need to read a different series to understand By the Sword. Complicated. Then, I just got out from the library. Actually, let's go back. I'll talk about that in a second. One of my goals this year is, and really since like November, I don't, is to complete my comic series. And one of the comic series I'm reading is the Avatar The Last Airbender comic series, which are a bunch of comic trilogies that come out, that start from right after Avatar The Last Airbender TV show ends and continue. So now I am on like the fifth or sixth series, I think the fifth. And I just read North and South Part 1, like literally like an hour ago. And so I want to read North and South Part 2, North and South Part 3, both written by Jane Lewin Young and illustrated by Gori Hiru, which are a pair of sisters. This is about Katara and Sokka going back to the Southern Water Tribe for the first time and discovering how much it has changed. Then, the next trilogy in the series that I want to read is Imbalance, Parts 1, 2, and 3, which is written by Faith Erin Hicks and illustrated by Peter Wortman and Adele Matera. I heard that the writing is much better in these series. Definitely the comic trilogies up till now have been mid. I've heard that Faith Erin Hicks is a much better writer. I am disappointed that the artists have changed though, because I have loved Gori Hiru's art. Finally, I just got a book out from the library where it's been like for 3 weeks, which is City of Jinns by William Dalrymple, which is a travelogue in, I believe, Delhi. So those are all the books that I hope to read in February.